Hello, you amazing people. Welcome back to RXMemes. Today, we are going to be diving into r/entitled parents. So, I'm sorry in advance because I know these stories really strike a nerve with fucking everyone. But at the same time, let's be grateful that we are not these people. Or that we did not encounter these people, hopefully. If you like today's video, I would love for you to subscribe, and let's get right on into it. Entitled Mom Tries to Get Me Put in Special Ed for Being Autistic, posted by user/SoupManBob. I am not even sure this is the right subreddit to post it in, but it seems to fit this one. Backstory. I am autistic, mild case and high functioning. At the time this took place, I was 7 and in kindergarten grade. In Denmark, school is a bit different than in the US. Here it's daycare to kindergarten to school at age 5 to 6, starting in kindergarten grade or 0 grade. So it wasn't diagnosed yet, but my mom always suspected and told both kindergarten staff, teachers, and parents that I likely have it. Got diagnosed with Asperger's at 10 if anyone is curious. Some were understanding and respectful of this, most were neutral, but one specific mother, the entitled parent, thought that it was absolutely disgusting that I be around normal children, especially her daughter. And rather than doing the rational thing parents do when they don't like something at their current school, this woman instead spent her time pushing my mother to put me in special ed. On with the story. Oh right, I also need to stress that this was 17 years ago, and while I don't remember exactly everything, like conversation specifics, some of this is just burned into my mind. Hence why I'm not including dialogue. I am walking home from school with one of my good friends, maybe the best one. We'll call her Julie, who is the daughter of our EP. I have always gotten along better with girls than boys. I was calmer than most boys of the time, despite severe anger issues, and girls were more understanding, respectful, and patient than boys for the most part. I might have to mention that I am one of those Aspies, people with Asperger's syndrome, who also have balance and sensory issues beyond your basic social incompetence and learning difficulties. So I am honestly not entirely solid on my feet at the time. So we're walking and talking about the day and new toys and TV shows and whatever else we could think of, as I begin stumbling and Julie, being the amazing girl she is, reaches out to catch me and support me. As she kind of reaches me, I begin falling down, and being a bit bigger than her, I accidentally pull her down with me. We both get scraped up, we make pain winces for a while, then get up. My house is closest, so I invite her in for a quick snack because I kind of hurt her. She says it's alright, was just an accident, and I shouldn't think anything about it. I don't remember or know precisely what happened next, but I got the cliff notes from my mom years later, who herself was told by other parents. I had already told her what happened earlier that day, and we both laughed and I got a band-aid. Happy little boy. But after this incident, EP had seen what happened to Julie, then proceeded to twist facts and send it out to many class parents, the neutral ones, via letter, and spread a story about how I had beaten up her daughter at a whim, and that I was a violent lunatic and we needed to get me removed from the class. Some of the neutral parents were on the fence about me and supported her, and the rest remained neutral or didn't get the letter. Anyways, fast forward to the next weekend and we're headed to a birthday party for one of our classmates at his house. Parents of the birthday boy are among those who had been on the fence about me and now thought I was a violent sociopath. Here I come to the party, gift in hand, asking my mom to not go in with me because I was embarrassed of her. She, like a good parent does, stays and watches to make sure I get in okay. I am stopped at the door and told that I am not allowed inside with the other kids. I am of course stunned and deeply confused about this and ask why. And me, being 7 years old, and him being an adult, he just says I'm not welcome. I am very sad at this point and am yelling at him with tears in my eyes, so my mom comes out and asks what the hell is going on, and he tells her I'm not allowed inside. She is of course confused and outraged and asks why, and he says I was violent and a danger to the other kids, that I had beaten up another kid. My mom is confused, I am confused. My mom asks who I supposedly beat up, and he says Julie, and I am even more confused, as is my mom, because we're best friends. This is a he said she said situation, and he decides to resolve it immediately and calls on Julie. Then asks him, and she looks as confused as me and runs to me as she sees I'm sad. She says I fell. She tried to save me and accidentally got pulled down. He apologizes profusely and sends me inside with Julie to play and have fun. Was a lovely day. Here's where there's a bit more story I didn't hear about until years later. My mom and the parent, who now realized I was a good, if odd, little boy, He and my mom immediately calls the other parents and shares that none of what EP said was actually true, and from then on, the rest of the parents were on board with me staying here and not trying to force me into special ed or anything like that. And when I started this special course a year later for my balance and sensory difficulties, which was during school, another parent even volunteered to have their kid join the class too, so I wouldn't feel weird about being taken out of class and go there alone. Entitled Mom tries to get me labeled a violent psychopath, posted by user/suitmanbob. Right, in my last post, I told y'all of a mom who thought I should be put in special ed simply for being autistic. In order to do this, she spread lies about me being a violent sociopath who beat up her kid, Julie, my best friend at the time. But she was caught in the lie and was left alone, fuming over failing to get me booted into special ed. Well, she tried almost the exact same thing 6 years later, but even worse, and this time it ended very badly for her. Also, obligatory phone excuse, and I have a tendency to digress. This will probably be a long one. Some extra backstory. In the years since she was caught in the lie, she has gotten a divorce. I'd like to believe it was because of what she did to me, but, well, it's more likely it was just part of the issues their marriage faced. She has kept trying to lobby to have me removed and has even tried to remove her daughter from the school. I heard from Julie that she actually claimed that she had more rights to Julie because she was the mom, and was promptly told that's not how shared custody works. She failed in all these attempts. It became so bad that the school asked my mom, my dad, they're divorced too, and me if she should be banned from parent meetings and such. My dad might not have been the best dad growing up, but he was protective of me and did teach me some good lessons on how to be a good man. Didn't want her near me. My mom was gracious and said she had a right to know about her daughter's education, and my mom taught me her grace, so I was cool too. None of this made her rethink her actions, by the way. Anyways, on to the story. This was during the time where I was taking this course in regards to my sensory and balance difficulties. I was 12 years old now, and I'm not a tall boy, but I am a big boy. I'm outside of the place where I had my class waiting for a taxi to pick me up. Quick side note, I am in the bad part of town, and in Denmark, much like in the US, there's white people emulating the accent, style, and slang of inner-city African Americans. In Denmark, our version is Middle Eastern people, mostly Turks, and white people emulating them. They're called plastic perker. It's just as subtly racist as wigga. This will be important. While waiting, I get accosted by a girl gang. You read that right, we actually had trouble with girl gangs in my area. Made up of Middle Eastern teen leader and plastic perker 1, 2, and 3, ages 14 to 16 probably. They start out with chanting derogatory names, fat pig, white bitch, Danish shit. Keep in mind 3 of them are white and Danish. When I don't respond to them, they get close, blowing their cigarette smoke in my face, pushing me around, starting to back me up against a wall. I'm of course very uncomfortable with this, but I say nothing. It's 4 against 1 and they're girls. I'm a boy. My dad taught me never to hit a woman. I try to get away from them, but that's when their ringleader pulls a knife on me, and I freeze, and they begin burning me with their cigarettes. My dad might have taught me not to hit a woman, but he also taught me to defend myself if I feel threatened and/or for self-preservation. I had severe anger issues that I had conquered on my own, but right there, I saw red. I actually don't remember what I did, but I remember them running away screaming, and I had a cut on my arm and a knife in my leg. Taxi arrived to see them run away and me bleeding. He immediately gets me into the car, drives me to the hospital, and calls my mom and dad on the way. I'm out again later that day. Wasn't that severe actually. Hit nothing vital and I barely felt pain. Word travels fast, of course, mostly because I'm bragging my ass off for managing to fight off 4 people older than me who had a knife and somehow survived. Our EP hears this, and this time twists and spins it not only to my class, but multiple, both older and younger, on the school, and in the neighborhood that I'm a violent psychopath, specifically targeting girls, and tries to build up support to have me arrested. Note, I have already talked to police at this point. The girl gang in question were in the middle of being processed. My actions deemed self-defense, and I am not in any kind of trouble. Of course, not every parent of every class knows about me, but most of the kids in my class has older and younger siblings. Her lies are very quickly quelled, and she is banned from the school property, and my mom's grace had been thrown out the window. My mom and dad agreed on very few things, being divorcees, but they did agree that the EP deserved to get arrested for lies and slander. The legal system agreed too. She pledged freedom of speech and was told that it didn't cover lies and slander. That was the follow-up to my tale where a mom tried to put me in special ed, and here she went nuclear. The sad part is that despite the fact that she was proven to lie, I still got a reputation, as this was far from the only time I saw red. I had broken ribs and nose of a bully a couple years earlier. Luckily, this was also the year I moved schools. Anyways, I had no further altercations with this EP, but I am sure she saw me moving schools as a victory. I don't care if you're a bridesmaid, I'm taking your bed so me and my kid don't have to sleep on the couch. Posted by user/SaturnT. I have another story that I can tell, and I'll post it if this does well. Here's a little background for this story. Last year in July, a cousin on my mom's side of the family was getting married, and I was given the opportunity to be one of her bridesmaids, to which I happily accepted. This came with a wave of introductions from some other girls in the wedding party, about 9 others in total. It was a huge ensemble, and a long dress rehearsal. Since the wedding was 4 hours away from us, my mom, my brother, and I stayed at my uncle's, the bride's father's, massive house for a week, which included 3 bedrooms and a finished basement with a room inside of there as well, plus a rented camper outside and other air mattresses in the basement. There were about 4 or 5 different families staying in the home, including our EPG and EK, so it was rather crowded but never crammed. For every day except the night before the wedding, I voluntarily slept on a couch in the basement. Now, on to the story. EPG is entitled parental guardian. EK is entitled kid. MM is my mom. MA is my aunt. MA EPGM, aunts/entitled parental guardian's mother. It was the day of the dress rehearsal as well as the night before the wedding day. After the rehearsal, the ensemble met up the family members of both the bride and groom at a park nearby for a gathering. About a few hours into it, the EPG takes EK back to my uncle's home because he's young, about 5 to 7 years old, and would probably be cranky if he doesn't get enough sleep, so my mom and I think nothing of it at the moment. The party goes on a little longer than expected, so my family and I arrive at the house at 10:15 p.m. Tired out, I grabbed my sleepwear and head upstairs towards my aunt and uncle's room, which my mom and I were promised to be in for sleeping arrangements because my aunt wanted me to get my beauty sleep and my mom to get a good night's rest for once in her life. She has sleeping problems. I walked down the hall and opened the bedroom door to find a head popping up. I mumbled an apology and dashed towards the bathroom in the hall and locked myself in. Because I couldn't think correctly, I thought a stranger was in the bed and began freaking out. I began calling my mom frantically to tell her what I saw. She came in to check it out herself, and what I thought was a stranger was freaking EPG. To call my mom pissed would be an understatement. She was furious. She brought EPG into the hallway so that she wouldn't wake up EK and began to chastise EPG for taking her sleeping arrangements. The argument went something like this. I didn't hear all of it, but this is what I heard. EPG, you're sleeping in me and Ollie's assigned bed. So? MA promised us to be in this bed. There are other places to sleep. EK wanted to sleep here though. Note. EK is known for getting his way and will throw a fit if someone defies him. I've felt his wrath before. EPG, did you know that we were supposed to be here? No! This is where MA EPGM steps in. This is where MA/EPGM steps in. She's an 84-year-old woman and has a zero tolerance policy for bullshit. What is going on here? MM woke me up to get me and EK out of our bed. Ollie and I were promised to sleep here. I didn't find any suitcases on the bed. MA/EPGM had enough. She told me and my mom to sleep in my cousin's bed, which was a full-sized bed, relatively smaller than my aunt and uncle's king-sized bed. EPG gave us a smug look and sashayed back into her room. Defeated, my mom and I sulked back into my cousin's room. It didn't help that my uncle's dog was sprawled at the bottom of the blankets, so not only was it uncomfortable to sleep on my side for 7 hours, the room smelled like a wet dog and I woke up often. The next morning, I woke up to find my mom, my aunt, and EPG drinking coffee at an island counter in the middle of the kitchen. EPG smiles at me and cheerfully asks how I slept. Gritting through my teeth, I replied to her with, "I slept amazingly, I feel super energized," and walked off to make myself breakfast. Though I didn't sleep well throughout the night, I had a great time at the wedding. Eventually, my aunt found out about what EPG did and was extremely pissed and told her she should be ashamed of herself for doing that in front of multiple family members, including the bride. Apparently, she did know that my mom and I were supposed to sleep there and left early so she could take the bed. Although I didn't get revenge, my aunt humiliating her was all that I needed. I have another story that I can tell, and I'll post it if this does well. Edit. For the person who asked what the EPG's reaction was, she was on the verge of tears and got really defensive and kept claiming to not remember that my mom and I were supposed to sleep there because she was starting to lose her memory. Yeah, right. My aunt bought none of it and told her that if her entitlement shows again, she won't be staying at her house anytime soon. She didn't have an overreaction, but I was astounded that she tried to pull the card, "My old hag brain doesn't function properly." Alright, you amazing people, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed those 3 stories. It's crazy how these entitled parents actually exist, like as adults. It's just ridiculous. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I would love to have you subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!